Oh, yeah. Oi, e aí, como vai? Welcome everyone to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about how I was surrounded by medicine all this time and I never knew it. But before I begin, hello to everyone that's been with me from the beginning. And for those that are new here, welcome. My name is Alicia Fairclough. I am the founder of Likkle Herbs. I'm a community herbalist based in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where I host workshops for expats and visitors and those that are new to the country on plant medicine and remedies. I have classes every week here. It's been fantastic. It's the coolest thing ever. More on that later. But let's dive into the deets of what I mean exactly by being surrounded by medicine and not even knowing it. I took a lot of things for granted growing up in Florida in a Jamaican household. My parents were immigrants from the island and they brought all of their knowledge with them, thank God. So a lot of interesting things were at play at the same time. My family moved to the US in the 80s. And part of that move included this understanding that they had to downplay certain aspects of our culture while maintaining other aspects of our culture. I'm the last of 3 kids, and so I got the latter half of this understanding, which was assimilate, which I think a lot of kids of immigrants can relate to. And so what that meant was I never picked up the Jamaican accent. I didn't pick up the Jamaican patois. I can lean into it now, but it's very emotional. It's usually when I'm upset.
We were sleeping.
Yeah, and?
We were sleeping.
Yeah.
Hear Prince screaming. When Prince screaming, say water. When you jump up and look, there is water. Many water, like Elsha.
But outside of language learning, the issue that I struggled with was food as medicine. I didn't even understand that concept as a child. I ate so much junk food. I had the SAD diet. The sad American diet. It was all of McDonald's, Taco Bell, Boston Market. It was the greasy, the salty, the not so great food, but it was what my palate was trained to like. And then in the background, my mom was making all of these delicious Jamaican meals like stew peas and rice and peas, curry goat, curry chicken, everything curried. What else does she make? Oxtail, saltfish and ackee. All of these wonderful foods. And then on top of that, my dad was making sursi tea and carrot juice and Irish moss. It was all of these wonderful things. I just did not like it. I just wanted my mac and cheese. I wanted my processed food. I wanted my dairy. Everything that was basically clogging my system. And I had no interest in trying anything else out. I was such a picky eater. And then it wasn't until I was 18 where we went to Jamaica. And this was my first time on the island. It was the coolest thing ever. I made a personal agreement with myself that I was gonna try different things, that I was gonna step outside my comfort zone. I was going to embrace all things Jamaican because this was my first time abroad. And I did, and I loved it all. And it was after this trip when I learned that everything that was taught to be questioned when I was growing up was actually what healed me later on in my life. And I'm so grateful that this happened to me. Scratch that, happened for me. I essentially had to learn a lot to get back to myself, to get back to roots culture. And all of this knowledge is now what dictates a lot of what I do in my practice in herbalism. So while my first encounter reunion with my culture happened at 18, things didn't really pick up until I was in my early 30s. So in my 30s, I had a portion of that life on the West Coast of the United States. And the West Coast is known for their legalized marijuana use. And before this, I had no interest in marijuana. I was so caught up in the belief and the connotations, the negative connotations around this plant. And I also didn't like the stigma associated with marijuana, especially within my family. and especially in connection with Jamaican culture. I didn't want to be just another Jamaican girl who was into pot. And I had all these misunderstandings about the plant, thinking that this was a gateway drug or that this would be the very beginning of being a pothead for the rest of my life. It was none of that in the end. And my first introduction was actually quite beautiful. I was living in Oregon, and I knew that RSO, Rick Simpson oil, for those of you who don't know, is essentially the whole plant added to a solvent, like a very high proof alcohol, that then turns into a resin. So it's just a very sticky, full spectrum oil of the marijuana plant. And I've never made it myself. It's a process, but I did find a very nice brand out there, out in Portland, that sold the product. And I like that it didn't feel too druggy, right? Like, I didn't need a bong, I didn't need a pipe, I didn't need to roll papers. It was just this pure, beautiful oil. So RSO, again, is the full spectrum of the marijuana plant, and that means that it has roughly 50-50 CBD and THC, which actually gives you the full therapeutic benefit of the plant, versus the stuff that you see in the market today with the edibles, where it's super high THC, because these products are built now to just get you high off your ass. That's why I'm always about purity. I'm a purist when it comes to medicines, plant medicines particularly. I like the stuff that's unadulterated. I want the things that feel close to nature as much as possible without too much human intervention, essentially. And so with the full therapeutic benefits, I was working with this product for pain, any bodily pain that I was feeling. Super excellent for that. Also stress. It was such a beautiful calming solution for just very stressful work environments. All the stuff that I was dealing with in corporate America, being the only Black designer and all the racism. It was just my moment of peace. And this connection was so strong that it was also beneficial in my mom's healing journey when she was going through cancer. So the next item, herbs and root tonics. Jamaicans are so well known for this. If you've been to any Jamaican markets, either in Jamaica or in your hometown or somewhere abroad, you will always find some form of a tonic. They are incredible. These are essentially very powerful infusions. I teach them in my workshops. I drink them every single day. This is literally part of my daily living now. It's so integrated. And tonics are decoctions. It can be a bark, or it can be the plant leaves, or it can be berries. And you're steeping it on the stove for 30 minutes at the most, sometimes a little bit longer depending on the type of material you're working with and how hardy it is. And this is how you extract the full benefits of the plants. And we drink it as medicine, but we drink it all the time. All my Jamaican folks out there know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's such a beautiful practice in the creation of these. I experimented with a few tonic recipes myself. One was a iron tonic. This was done as an experiment because I wanted to help folks with anemia. I worked with a set of barks and roots primarily, which is basically the baseline for any roots tonic, given the name, right? And I remember drinking this particular roots tonic for about 2 months. And I had to get my blood drawn with the doctor, I think for my annual physical. This is when I was living in Jersey. And I was getting a lot of blood work done because I was working with another physician to help to balance out my hormones. And I started to look at the numbers for my iron levels, and I saw a huge uptick. And I was like, okay, this is obviously the iron roots tonic that did this. And it was the coolest thing. So highly recommend. I love being a guinea pig for my own work so that people really understand how these things work. And then my parents, they grew Circe in the wild. Circe, I'll also share a photo, is beautiful. It's part of the bitter melon family. That is a staple in every Jamaican diet and so fantastic for helping to lower blood sugar, but also so good for the liver. Anything that's bitter, always remember, is super good for the liver, especially if you have something like a Circe tea before meals, because it actually stimulates bile production. And we had this growing all viney, all beautiful on the fence in our backyard. And This was actually it looks like it's kind of a fruit. It's a very orange fruit, very red inside with seeds, and so bitter. Not fun to drink, but so good for you. And my sister and I used to squish them in between our fingers growing up because it was so abundant. We still have so much in our yard even today. It does very well in Florida climate. Another staple is a fever grass, for example. And fever grass is exactly what it sounds like. And here in Brazil, we have the same thing. A little bit different in variety, but it's called capim limão. And it smells exactly like lemon. And it's called fever grass in Jamaica because it's essentially used for fevers. We drink it all the time just because, but it's actually great as a fever reducer. And another wonderful thing, since it's part of the citronella family, you can use it also as a mosquito repellent. So we'll literally take a bunch of the grass in my aunt's yard, for example, and we will just rub it on our skin. And that's excellent because it repels mosquitoes. So I need that all the time because mosquitoes love my blood for some reason. I don't have the best luck with mosquito and warm climates, but this is such a savior. Another thing that has been so life-changing for my body, now that I've gotten closer to roots knowledge and my ancestry and how we eat food and how we prepare food, but particularly spices, warming spices. I'm talking about your gingers, your allspice, your cinnamon, your nutmeg. Like, these are things that I put in everything. And I did this mostly because I just love the flavor. It reminds me of home. But what I didn't realize is that these warming herbs are actually so good for the body. It actually helps to encourage blood circulation, but it also is really fantastic as an anti-inflammatory. I didn't know that. Like, incredible knowledge. And these are the things that we just do naturally. So I use this mix of spices in my oatmeal and my smoothies. I put it in everything that's usually on the sweet side. Sometimes I'll add a little cinnamon to a tea. I use it for my cocoa tea as well, which is another wonderful recipe if you're a chocolate lover. And this is not an average cup of hot cocoa. This is something I love to make for all of my loved ones. I'm like, you've never had hot cocoa like this. And sometimes I'll sneak in a little sea moss, which I'll talk a little bit more about. But all of these spices are just so fantastic for the body, especially if you're paying very close attention to what you're feeling. And we have this thing that we talk about in Chinese medicine, but also in Ayurveda, around whether the body is running cold or if it's running hot or if it's running dry or if it's running wet. And that's a whole other conversation. But not to go too deep into that, but you always want to counteract your symptoms. So for example, if you're running cold, you'll feel congestion, you'll feel inflammation. You want to combat that with your warming herbs, exactly like I mentioned, your allspice, your cinnamon, your nutmeg, etc. And so these are the things that are actually so good for helping the body really optimize itself for healing. And all of these things are not random, they're intentional, and that's what I absolutely love about wanting to go back to these flavor profiles, because they're helping me in every way possible, even when I don't realize it. Daily rituals. So everyone in my family loves to look to our Aunt Zeta. This is on my mom's side. So Aunt Zeta is kind of a star. I hope she's watching this. If she is, hello, Aunt Zeta. Hello, what is that? I don't know what that is. Hello, Aunt Zeta. And she's a queen. She's a queen. I don't know how else to describe her. So Aunt Zeta is my great aunt. She is essentially a grandmother to me and to so many of us. And she is now 96, going on 97. And she has officially outlived her mother, whom is another matriarchal figure in the family. This is Grandma Susie. And Aunt Zeta has a very, very specific lifestyle. She lives right next to the water in Montego Bay in a beautiful home. And she drinks warm water. She never drinks anything cold. And she doesn't do anything but fruits first thing after waking up. That's her meal. She'll do fruits first thing. She'll do a glass of water. To be honest, Aunt Zeta doesn't really like water. I was like, let me see if I can push it. No, I cannot lie to you. Anzeta does not like water, and she should be drinking more water. Anzeta, drink more water. But if she's drinking any beverage, she's usually drinking it room temperature and not too cold. And that's actually something that I don't like. I forgot to mention also, Anzeta and I share the same birthday, and we were both born on a full Scorpio moon. I mean, I feel like I'm on my way, y'all. And part of my daily rituals have involved a lot of very Jamaican things. As I mentioned earlier, I use all of these spices now in my oatmeal, but now I have a penchant for cornmeal porridge, which is another very warm and nourishing meal that we have in Jamaica. This is so good again for the digestive system. This is great for the circulation system. This is also just good generally for your gut to have warm foods in the body. You don't want things to shock the body, just like ice water, for example. Hence why we have this affinity for room temperature. So it's no surprise that migraines are linked to cold water. Digestive issues are linked to cold water. You know, these are the things that our bodies just do not like. But we don't realize that. Look at all the ads that you see on TV with the icy cold Sprite or icy cold water. These are things that are marketed to us, that are normalized, but this is not what our bodies want. I've also really gotten into sea moss lately. Another thing that just kind of happened. I feel like the ancestors are talking to me and they're like, Alicia, eat better. So sea moss. I actually brought some here. It's this guy. The thing about sea moss is I always liken it to blood vessels and veins. It reminds me of the brain. I mean, we are nature. But imagine when you see a structure like this actually mirrors root structures of trees and plants. But it also can be likened to neurons and neural networks, neural pathways, blood vessels, veins. We need to consume these things. So in relation to the human body, this is great for cardiovascular health, lowering LDL. It's great for iron and energy. It's great for thyroid support, given its iodine content. And so for the brain, it's neuroprotective, which means we're actually protecting the brain from neurodegenerative diseases. Hi, I'm back. Okay, weird. Let me explain. This is what happened. So I recorded what I recorded and everything was all set. I was done, at least so I thought I was. And then when I was editing the footage, I saw that my mic went out at the very end of the video, which actually, it sucks, but it could be way worse, right? I could have had to re-record an entire last half of the video. So that's why I'm in a completely different fit. It's a new day. It literally is a new day. But you just have to roll with the punches. This is normal. This is natural. I want you guys to see me in my element of chaos that happens every once in a while. I don't even think Mercury is in retrograde right now, but let's continue. So one thing that I wanted to quickly review before I move on from sea moss into the next section is the term doctrine of signatures. So that is essentially what I had described earlier on with the very tentacle-like, veiny type of textures that you see with sea moss and how that relates to the human body and how we appear, how our bodies are formed through nature. And doctrine of signatures is essentially that. So you have certain plants that have an affinity for certain organs in the body. One example of that is the ginseng root. I'll put a picture in the corner. And ginseng, I've always thought looked like a little person. So I actually never even knew this was a good example or a common example, but it supports the whole body. So it's the same idea. It's this human-like figure, human-like root, supporting the entire human structure. It's beautiful. Another way in which I have changed course completely and wanted to value my food in a different way, in a whole way, is eating food, fruits, whole. And so this goes back to what I had mentioned earlier, where I was all about processed everything, things that tasted synthetic, things that didn't taste like it came from earth. So when I was around like 25, 26 or so, my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and it was a very scary period. I didn't realize how prevalent this disease was, especially for Black men, especially for Black men at his age. But it was a frightening time. And also being the youngest child, this was the first time I had ever really seen anything like this with my parents. And so I went on this entire journey of trying to understand how people self-heal. I was watching a lot of documentaries at this point and knew of these beautiful stories, how people were able to, do a juicing method following the Garrison therapy, or eat a whole foods diet, turn to cannabis, etc. And I was like, oh, this is something that we could consider. So, talked to my dad about it. He was interested, but wasn't fully invested, so he decided to take the conventional route, which is totally fine. He's still in remission, which is beautiful. But this was the catalyst to my journey in Whole Foods and wanting to eat more vegetables, eat more on the vegan side of things, or have a more vegan diet. And I haven't turned back since. But also, during this period, I was a vegetarian. This was while I was in grad school. So I became a vegetarian for a completely different reason. My body just stopped accepting meat. It just rejected meat. That's literally my story of why I became a vegetarian. I don't have anything deeper than that, unfortunately. But it's done me a world of good, I believe. I would say that this was a fantastic move for me in the end. And vegetarianism is also linked to a longer life and fewer chronic diseases. And I don't really have any plans of ever going back to meat. My body doesn't even want it. And again, as I said earlier, listen to the body, right? And going back to what I was saying about the more vegan side of things, I tried veganism for a bit. I still kind of lean both ways, either veganism or vegetarianism. But for me, veganism was too constricting. I wanted my cheese. Remember, I loved my mac and cheese. That never ever went away. Now I'm eating fancier cheeses, not just Velveeta. So I have stepped up. I've stepped up my cheese game. But all that to say, veganism is beautiful. It was even nice just to try it, to see if it's something that I could fully adopt. And the interesting thing also about veganism was that it was my gateway to raw eating as well, raw food diets, fruitarianism, I think that's a word, all these other subsectors of veganism. But really what this showed me in the end was how important it was to eat off the land. And this was exactly what my ancestors did. I might have mentioned this in another video, or I might have mentioned this in this video. I don't think I did, but I do come from a family of Jamaican farmers on both sides. And so agriculture and living off of plant material, that was something that was really big for us, but also raising what we ate. So there was actual hard work put behind feeding ourselves, taking care of our families. And there's no other way in my mind outside of doing this. I mean, honestly, when I eat junk food, if I have French fries somewhere, which I don't even enjoy anymore, or if I'm having beer or sipping someone's drink, it's just not, it doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't do anything for me. I just don't enjoy it, and I don't like how I feel afterwards. I feel sluggish. I feel sleepy. I feel kind of gross and heavy. And the thing with whole foods is that you're eating the food whole, you're getting the fiber content, the water content, and it's just so filling. There's no way to describe it. I mean, for all my vegetarians out there, my vegans out there, you guys get it. And I remember my nephews and my brother-in-law teasing me, my dad even, all the macho guys. I don't know what that was about. Meat and men, I don't get it. But they would tease me. They're like, don't you miss chicken? Don't you miss steak? I'm like, no, I don't. I don't miss these things. I just don't have a taste for it. You really do change the makeup of your body, but you also start to align with your needs, your body's needs, and how you just stay in touch with what speaks to you, what resonates with you. So I would never tell someone who's an omnivore or a carnivore, herbivore, whatever, what you should and should not do. I just know what works best for me. And I know that, again, living off of the land and being closer to plant-based has been really great for my family and for my folks back home. Quick tea break, hold on. The other thing about being more whole foods with my diet is, and this is not TMI, this is natural, is you're getting way more servings of fruits and vegetables than the RDA, or the recommended daily allowance, than what's recommended, right? Which means your skin is clearer, you're not packing on weight, you have more energy, you have better bowel movements, normal bowel movements. Everybody, you should be pooping at least once or twice a day, preferably once after every meal. I'm just saying, like, getting your liquids in is not coming only from the food, but also if you're drinking enough water throughout the day. Like, I don't even have taste for soft drinks, except I'm not actually gonna go that far. I love my sparkling water. And I love my sparkling water paired with my Oxymels. It's like a homemade kombucha without the long wait. And it's a party on your tongue. I don't know how else to describe it. It's so delicious and it's so good for you and for your gut health. And I teach this in all of my classes. It's the easiest way to enter into herbalism without feeling like you have to be a pro who knows everything. You don't have to be an expert, I promise. You just have to come in willingly, open to trying something new, and probably like plants, even a little bit. And the next piece that has been so good for me, for my heart, for my spirit, my soul, is a lifestyle shift where things are slower. So I came from a very fast-paced US of A. Everything was just go, go, go. Never enough hours in the day, always something to do, always something to worry about. Cost of living was out of control, and that's the case, I think, in most places, to be honest. But I was miserable, and I was so burnt out, and I did this for years and years and years, almost 2 decades. And I remember when I finally lost it. I don't want to say that. That was kind of extreme. When I finally burnt out, naturally, and I feel like a lot of us have those signs and symptoms, but sometimes we don't listen to those symptoms. For me, that was coming through and being highly emotional, very undermotivated, very sad. It was a situation I found myself in that I didn't imagine I would be in. I had the best job, I had the house and the car, I had all the things that I was supposed to do on paper, but it was not bringing me any sense of joy. It was very sad. And when I took mental health leave, which I'm grateful that my job even offered that, because I don't think that's a common offering, I went to Costa Rica for a month. I was in Puerto Viejo. And this was the slowest living I had ever witnessed. I was amongst folks who were from Costa Rica, the Ticos and the Ticas. And then I was amongst travelers and also people who had moved to the country, in this part of the country, from the US, particularly Black folks. And I only chose this area because I knew that they had strong ties to Jamaica, historically speaking, and I just wanted to be part of that. And also, by the way, the Spanish spoken in this part of Costa Rica is the most beautiful, because it's a mix of Jamaican patois and Spanish. Where are you going to find that? Where else in the world? I'm sure there are other places. No, that's not true. You were going to find that in other places, especially in South America and then countries closer to the Caribbean. All right, my bad. But it was cool. It was cool, and I loved it. It took me some time to get used to this pacing. It took me some time to understand, why is everyone so slow? Why is the service so slow? Why are things taking so long? Because life is meant to be lived, It's not go, 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 rush, rush, rush all the time. And that was a lot of deprogramming that I had to do in that month's time. And it was a good check-in for myself, because I realized that I could do better for myself. I could do better in my life by just slowing down. And I did. I ended up quitting my job a year later beyond that point. But that's also where I hatched Likkle herbs, right? So because I was able to slow down, because I was able to think, be at peace, do yoga on the beach. I did comedic yoga, actually, which was even cooler. I had time to really breathe. I had time to meditate. I had time to make friends, know people, learn Spanish. I had time to build community. It was it was such a good wake-up call for me. And not to say that anything that happened during that transition from Costa Rica to back to the US to quitting my job to coming here was easy at all. It was not. I have a lot of horror stories for you. When it comes to becoming, it's not an easy process. Think about it as maybe childbirth or something. I wouldn't change it for the world because it made me who I am today, and it's all part of the story. And I think now, working for myself, for example, I would say that my life is truly my own. When I think about even Jamaica is also quite slow and pacing, slow and processes, and it feels so otherworldly. Really, it feels like you're entering a different dimension when you're in the Caribbean. I feel like I haven't been to a lot of islands in the Caribbean outside of Jamaica, but I would say that that's the general vibe. I feel like it has something to do with the water. I have my hunches of why this is the case, but I think it really is part of me, is part of my identity, and it was something that I chose not to see for the sake of being someone I was not. And I'm proud of myself. I'm proud that I'm here, and going back to like what it's like to be a business owner, to work for yourself, and to be truly living within your own rhythm. Like, my days start really late because I like to work later into the evening, and I think I'm going to switch that this year. That's what I've been talking about for a while at least. But I'll wake up probably around 10, 11. I'll meditate for an hour. I'll follow that up with yoga, either first thing after meditation, or I'll work for a little bit after a meal. Either way, I always make sure that I fit in some form of activity, some physical movement. So whether that be Pilates, yoga, walking, or cardio, or capoeira, or dance. I have so many beautiful options here. And I will work for a few hours after I eat. And then I'll break and either do yoga if I didn't do earlier in the day, or I'll keep working. And I have time to talk with my friends. I have time to talk to my family. I have time to plan the week. I have time to do the things that mean something to me. And then I end the evening with Portuguese and Spanish practice. And then I follow that up with painting. And then I go to bed and I do it all over again. And, obviously this changes depending on what my class schedules look like. It's been a different schedule, but it still fits in the things that matter the most to me. But it all means something, right? It's like I'm connecting with folks who are traveling, and I'm teaching them about oxymels, or I'm working on my own plans, for the business or for my artwork. And so it's kind of a dream. It really is. And I'm so grateful. I'm so incredibly grateful. I'm going to not cry on camera. Let's not do that. We'll do that another time. I'm not going to fault anyone that has gotten vulnerable on camera. It happens. So for my personal anchors, my family, I think that I had such strong beginnings. I'm happy that even though I was a junk food fiend, a fast food fiend, I still had so much love surrounding the culture. I wanted to be the kid that sounded not from the US. I wanted to sound like my parents. I didn't like a lot of the food, but there were moments that I would eat an Easter bun with some cheese. What is that cheese called? It was like what is Tasty's cheese? Tasty's cheese. To put a photo. The Easter bun with the Tasty's cheese. Because I love the dairy, right? And then I like sweetness and processed food. So Jamaica is not all whole all the time, right? Like, we have our junk food as well. I mean, it's better than what you see in the States, to be honest. Like, Easter bun, it's like fruits. It's a fruit cake. That's pretty much what it is. No, I'm not gonna say that. It's basically like fruit bread. Which is like the opposite of breadfruit, huh? Because even through the assimilation, there was this gratitude that my family had for their roots, and shared moments in that gratitude. Even if it wasn't outright, like, be more Jamaican, that wasn't the case at all. Mom was like, no, please sound more like your white counterparts. Unfortunately, hey, it is what it is. But I do remember, moments in the kitchen with the massive mixing bowl that we had to make black cake and the spatula as we would just carve at the sides once my mom would put the batter in the baking dishes. And I'm surprised we didn't get sick from that. There was definitely egg in that batter, huh? You notice I'm having these moments, these like little flashbacks? That was Jamaica. It was in our home in Florida. It was always there. It was always there. And I also recall my dad getting up super, super early in the morning for work. He was a painter. He painted houses for years. It was a trade that was passed down from my grandfather to my uncle and my father. And probably kind of me. I am a painter. I just didn't end up painting houses. I paint canvas, but I know how to paint a good baseboard, and I know the difference between satin and eggshell finishes. I mean, just come to me. And my dad would be up so early in the morning, and he would be making his Irish moss, and he did his with oats, and yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, he did. So my dad would be up very early in the morning. I can still see the color of the haze outside. It was just like this nice soft blue. And my dad would be in his painting uniform ready to go. And he'd be making the Irish moss at the counter. And I would be standing next to him because I was always in his face, following him around like a little duck. And he made his with oats. And I don't know if that is I don't think that's part of the original recipe. He would put it all together, and then he would have some left over, and I would just slurp it up because it was so tasty. And it also, it was sweet, and it had, again, those, like, Jamaican spices. Like, there was nothing like that, And I remember just seeing him off to work with his little cooler, and he would be slurping his Irish moss on his way to work. Heading into and climbing into his van, into his work van. And my mom is such a fantastic cook. She shows love through her cooking, She's still like that. And I would say that I take on a lot of those attributes as well. I have, when people come over to my place, I am just loving on my students, I'm loving on my guests, I'm loving on people who just are here. And I don't treat anyone different when they come here. I literally have my mom's energy, this nurturing maternal vibe. It's so interesting. It's funny as I talk about this, it feels like some kind of testimonial because I'm thinking about it as I speak, and I don't even realize, and I didn't realize that a lot of this stuff is so close to my heart, and how I show up today, how I show up for my students, how I show up for my guests. And so when my students come over, I sometimes just don't know how to unplug, but everyone is human as well. And you hear some very, very heartfelt, deep stories from people, that really want to open up and want to share. And I think that's such a gift, and it really just something from my heart, to be able to hold people in that way. And the same for my friends and folks that come to visit me here. I make them a nice cup of tea. I have the lights. This is literally how I live. The space is cozy. It holds people. And I didn't even know that until I did some research on how my user experience was in the home, because I'm still a designer at the end of the day. And I was so surprised by the findings. I was like, oh, I did that. I didn't mean to do that, but that's what's resonating with people, which is why I'm getting such beautiful feedback about relaxation. I wasn't even thinking that way. It was just being a Taurus, I guess. I don't know. It was being my mom. I don't know. I was being me. It was being my people. This is just how we do things, I guess. And you don't question it. You just do. So in closing, I am not discovering anything new. I am just living in truth. And it's helping me. It's helping me. It's helping my body. It's helping my body to be its best self. It's keeping me healthy. It's keeping me strong mentally, physically. It's also feeding my spirit in so many ways because I'm staying true to what makes sense to my heart. And I didn't even know I was gonna say half the things I've said. I think maybe there's something divine about being in this position where I had to re-record because I definitely didn't get to this point in the last version. So I will leave it at this. Thank you so much for joining me again on this journey. I am so excited to keep making videos like this on so many different topics because it's so mind-blowing. I didn't even know about myself in this way. I'm meeting a new version of myself as I create content for you. But I thank you for joining me again, and please come back for more. I will be here again roughly every week, still working on a schedule for that, but I'm being very consistent. But the consistency is consistency. The consistency is consistency. Yes, don't worry about it. And I did say I was gonna work on that exit. Oh my God. So until next time, I'll see you on the flip side. That sounds like, I feel like I have something there. I think that one has legs. Ciao.